Hi, everyone. Before we get into today's episode, I just want to warn you that there's a lot of swearing throughout this interview. So if you have kids around, you'll want to listen at a later time. Now on with the show. Hello, I'm Christopher Lopez, and this is the StarCraft Observer. The show centered around the real-time strategy game StarCraft and its real stories from the community. We talk to artists, streamers, players, creators about their first encounter with the game and how it's changed their lives. Hello, listeners. Welcome to today's episode of the StarCraft Observer. Not gonna lie, it's hard putting this show together because I'm the only person running the ship. From story planning to editing to creating music, mixing, ads, which help promote the guest, pre-interviews, writing script, and most importantly, booking people for the show and an hour of their time. The hardest part of all that? Booking someone for the show, which usually involves me finding someone, reaching out to them via Twitter, Reddit, Instagram, email, and hoping that they'll be interested in speaking with me. I've done it so many times and sent out countless messages with one or two individuals interested. The messages that always catch me off guard are the ones that I sent years ago, and with that specific person agreeing to do the show. It always feels like putting your contact information in a bottle with a personalized message, throwing it into the ocean, and eventually finally making its way to the person you're hoping to book. It's always a great feeling, not gonna lie, which is kind of what happened with today's guest. As of recording this, it's December 2023. A few years ago, I remember coming across a blog they wrote on Team Liquid, which they talk about how life was like being a pro gamer, their move from South Korea to Sacramento, California, what it was like being a foreigner in a new country, going to college in the US, finding a job once they graduate, and more importantly, why they retired from pro gaming altogether. The whole blog post felt like someone who had this huge dream in which they were able to accomplish, but because of that, sacrificed some of the important years of their life, which they were now trying to get back and make up for. I was really moved by their story and decided to message them. But being as it's a Team Liquid forums, it was a long shot. So I wrote my heart out and empathized with them, letting them know that life always has plans for them, that things will never make sense in the moment, but once you get through them and look back on it all served a purpose. That message was sent and timestamped November 9th, 2019. After sending that message, days would turn into weeks, weeks into months, and months into a few years. Then one day, on April 15th, 2021, I got a notification. Well, not really a notification, but I got around to checking my inbox since the notification system isn't so great on the Team Liquid forums. But nonetheless, a notification. And to my surprise, it was a former pro gamer, and they finally got back to me after all this time. They wrote, "Hey Chris, I'm really sorry for the late response. I was in the Korean Army until a few weeks ago and haven't really had a chance to check my Team Liquid account. Please let me know if you'd still be interested in doing an interview with me. Again, I'm really sorry for the late response. Have a great day. Sincerely, Rain." Not to be confused with the StarCraft 2 Protoss player or the StarCraft 1 Protoss player. Nope. We're talking about the StarCraft 2 Terran player, Rain. I was absolutely thrilled, and immediately I put all my energy into getting him onto a call. Hello? Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Here, hold on one sec. Yeah, I can hear you. How's everything, man?
Pretty good.
Yeah, awesome. So, yeah, you recently got a new job?
Yeah, about a week ago.
And how's that?
Um, I like it so far. It's just been a week, but I know I'm eventually gonna hate my job, like everyone else.
Yeah, it's hard, man. Finding at this point, we've spoken a couple times via Discord and have gotten to know each other a bit. To my surprise, Rain had finally managed to land a job after completing his mandatory Korean military service. Because you recently just got out of the service, right?
Yeah, actually, I'm very lucky to get this job because everyone's at this time, especially because of the COVID, is struggling for finding a job, and it took me like a month for do that. People's doing that for like a year, and I don't know. I think I was pretty lucky.
Does a Korean military help you out with finding a job, or are you on your own after you leave?
No, no, no. They don't do this shit for me because every Korean male has to do, so it doesn't make you any special.
And during this time, COVID was on the rise, which also wasn't very fun for anyone, and especially for Rain because it was something very new. And in early 2020, no one quite knew how to deal with it yet. We're talking early 2020, like 2 months in. How was COVID like when you were in the military?
Well, it was horrible because I was basically stuck in the base for about 6 months. I didn't even had a chance to go out, you know. They usually give you it's called, I don't know the term in English, but you can just basically go out once in a month,
Mm-hmm.
like for like 12 hours and some or so. You can just go home, you can do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the COVID, I couldn't go out at all for 6 months. I just had to stay in the base.
Wow.
You know, like it was driving me crazy.
Yeah. I mean, and were they safe about it at least though?
Well, probably because it's very hard to explain it, but like people like me, you know, who serve in the military as an obligation, you know, we all stay in the base, and people who actually doing this for their career, they are commuting, but they're not actually I don't know how to explain this very well.
So basically, if you have to do your mandatory service, you have to stay on the base. But if you enroll in it willingly and as your career,
Hmm.
you get to travel to and from base.
Yeah, yeah.
And the way Korean military service works is that every able-bodied male from ages 18 to 28 are required to do military service, which lasts about 18 months. As for women, they are not required but are still eligible to enlist. Willingly, that is. It's a complicated process that I won't dive into, but Rain was able to delay his service due to being a pro gamer, a position highly regarded in the Korean culture, and a journey that can be ridiculously hard. There was so much I wanted to know about Rain that we take it back to the beginning and his early upbringings before he came into StarCraft. So, where did you grow up?
Well, I was born in Korea, obviously, because I'm Korean. Lived in Seoul, the capital of Korea, for majority of my life.
What was it like? Did you have friends there at a very young age?
I actually don't remember because I had to actually travel a lot. I went to New Zealand for 2 years, and well, it's a, it's a personal thing, but my parents got divorced when I was really young, and my mom lived in like in it's called Gwangju. It's like 3 hours away from Seoul. So I actually had to move school to school, you know, sometimes. So I don't really have like friends I met in school, you know. I didn't go to high school too, so
So, at what age did your parents get separated at?
when I was like 4, I don't re even remember how they got separated. I was like super young
How did you know they got separated?
because they told me later. You know, it was a normal thing. I never actually had experience of seeing my parents being together, you know.
Oh.
So it was a normal thing for me, but after I went to school, I realized that this isn't something that is normal, you know, because all my other friends I met there have their both parents, and when I was young, I was actually very embarrassed about that fact, but now I don't give a shit. But as a kid, you know, I wanted to hide that stuff.
Yeah.
So I didn't like invite my friends over because they
Mm-hmm.
would figure out, you know,
Mm-hmm.
things like that.
Like, why were you embarrassed?
I don't know, because I don't want to, because I'm different from others. The fact that I am different from others just made me uncomfortable. I don't know. I don't really understand why I was so embarrassed about it, but as a kid I was. Yeah, it's hard to explain.
I understand. I think we all went through that as kids when there's like something different, compared to your friends. You don't really want to talk about it because you're like worried about getting made fun of,
Hmm.
or being teased at school. You just don't talk about it, so you hide it. So, what would you tell your friends about your parents then?
I told them that my dad is working in US. Actually, he was working in US for a few years, but even if he wasn't, I would still tell them he's in the US.
And as Rain mentioned earlier, he would eventually travel to New Zealand to spend time with his father, along with his younger brother, which he later mentioned in the interview. As exciting as that might sound, it wasn't for Rain, mainly because he would be staying somewhere far, far away from his friends that were back home in South Korea. And on top of that, he didn't know how to speak any English. But traveling to New Zealand and learning a new language would be the least of his problems. And I guess, like, what do you remember from those times?
Well, I went when I was in New Zealand, I went there with my dad. Of course, I wanted to go back to Korea actually when I was there. I didn't like it.
Why didn't you like it?
Well, first when I got there, I didn't speak any English at all. And like these domestic kids were making fun of me, so I had to like always fight them.
Like, you were really getting into fights, like physical fights?
Yeah, yeah. I
Wow.
was actually pretty good at it, you know.
Wow. Like, do you remember any one of those fights? Like, what started it?
Yeah, there was a guy called Hayden. I still remember his name, Hayden. He was a he was a white dude. He was I don't he was probably making fun of my name, my Korean name,
Mm.
and I punched him in the face, and he started to cry.
Oh my gosh. So,
Yeah.
how was he making fun of your name? Like, what was he saying? Do you remember?
My Korean name is Soyoung,
Hmm.
and he was calling me like soy sauce,
Oh my God.
and I beat the shit out of him.
Does the school find out? Like, what happens?
Yeah, they found out, but the teacher was 100% on his side, and that's what this the moment that I felt she's being racist, you know, because he's just supporting him. Because well, he was doing that shit for days and days, and you know, it was not the first time he made fun of me. He was doing that shit over and over, and you know, there was a point I was thinking like, okay, I'm gonna fuck this guy up, you know. But the teacher was always, um, she was always blaming me. You know, I was the bad kid, and you know, I didn't like it.
Yeah, and were you doing anything bad in class?
No, no, I didn't do shit.
Wow, so all because you were different then.
That's what I felt as a kid. Yeah,
Oh man. And what'd you tell your dad after you got into that fight?
they actually summoned my dad to school for that shit. You know,
What happened?
I don't know. Like they probably warned him about my misbehavior or whatever. He didn't tell me anything about it, so I don't really know what they actually told him.
And did he talk to you about it at least?
He didn't say much about it.
Mm. He's just like, good job, kid.
Yeah. At least you won the fight.
Where was your brother in all this?
Well, he was with me all the time.
Was he there to back you up during that fight or what?
We actually had like few team fights too, 2v2 and things like that. Yeah. And
So,
there are other Korean kids too, so
oh, okay. So you and your brother always stuck together. I guess when the kids were actually making fun of you, you and him were going against other locals.
yeah, kind
Yeah,
of, yeah.
literally 2v2s. And as you heard, New Zealand was not welcoming for Little Rain, and it was really tough for him to adjust to this new environment. Soon, his luck would turn now. He got news from his father that they would have to go back to South Korea, but at the cost of his dad's business not doing well. When I asked Rain about what his dad did, he didn't really know. All he knew was that his dad specialized in a type of international English testing system known as IELTS, spelled IELTS, to help other Koreans from his generation migrate to new countries where English was the native language. And as you probably already guessed, one of those countries was New Zealand. Rain mentioned that there are many different levels of IELTS, but if you wanted to migrate to New Zealand at the time, you only needed to be a level 3 in order to get into New Zealand. But eventually, the country decided to up the minimum to level 6, which was even more difficult for some to achieve and resulted in Rain's dad having to close up shop and head back to South Korea. This was unfortunate for his dad, but Rain was thrilled to hear about the news about going back to South Korea, and he was also excited to be living back with his mom. And what was that like, staying with your mom again?
Well, I was very happy, you know. Um,
Yeah.
you know, as a kid, like you need your mom. You know what I mean? My dad can't even cook. Oh, I hated everything he made.
Yeah.
I was just so happy to be back with my mom.
Did you see? Yeah, you saw your old friends from when you were a kid, though, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah. I went back to the same school, so
and what was that like seeing them again?
it was weird. It was weird. They were asking me a lot of things about New Zealand. You know, actually they tried to bully me because they were calling me Yankees. You know,
Oh,
what the fuck? Like, you know, I don't know why even they call me Yankee, but I wasn't even in New York or anything, but they were trying to make fun of me with the fact that lived in New Zealand for 2 years. Like, wow.
it's like, you go and get made fun of in New Zealand, and you're like, "Fuck this! I want to leave." You leave, you come back, you get the same thing, but you're being called a Yankee. But this time, it's your friends.
Yeah, right?
So, at what point do you get into video games?
Oh, I actually played StarCraft at a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was like 7 when I first started. I didn't play it seriously at the time. I didn't even like the game that much. But when I came back to Korea, the StarCraft was already a huge thing. So there were a lot of advantage of being good at StarCraft. My friends in schools were asshole at first, but they started to like me because I was very good at StarCraft, you know? It's like being good at basketball or football in US. It was pretty much the same, I think.
What was it about StarCraft that you didn't like about?
Well, I when I first played, I was only playing the single play, and my brother also played StarCraft 2, and he was better than me when we were young, and he would always ask me to play with him, and
Mm.
he would kick my ass.
Mm.
And obviously, I didn't enjoy that, so
That's why you didn't like it. Okay. When do you start playing it and start getting good at it?
you know, because being good at StarCraft, as I told you earlier,
Mm-hmm.
gives you a lot of rewards. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like the kids, they look up. Well, how can I say?
Yeah, they look up to you.
Yeah, look up to me, and they were actually paying for my. You know what PC Bang is? PC Bang is like basically like a internet cafe. There's like a bunch of computers, and you know all the kids they go there after school, and they were actually paying for that shit. They were paying for my PC Bang fee because they wanted me to be on their team because they wanted to win. You know,
Wow. Were they holding tournaments for like money and that's why they're paying you?
like no, not there wasn't any money involved, but they still wanted to win. And PC Bang wasn't very expensive, so they actually wanted to have me in their team. We used to have like 3v3, 4v4 after school. You know,
You're going after school. Were you always coming home late because of this?
yeah, yeah, actually, yeah.
What were you telling your mom?
You know, actually, my mom, you know, Korea is all about education.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom signed me up for like private school, not private school, like after school stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I never went there.
Hmm.
I always went to PC방 straight and stay there till they close.
Hmm.
And I lied to her like, oh, I came back from the academy, you know. And she figured out that I never been there, not even once. And she got super mad.
What'd she do?
Well, I got spanked.
Oh, I would be furious too, man, because I'm paying for this, and you're going out to like a PC bong to like mess around in computers. I would be mad too.
Yeah, right?
Oh my gosh. So I guess like, what do you remember when you came home and she found out?
Oh, when I came back home, I felt something was wrong, right? And the academy I signed up for, they actually called my mom and told her this kid never showed up for a month.
So when you showed up, like, how did you know if something was wrong? Like, what were the
You
signs?
know, you can feel it, right? Like you can just feel it.
Yeah, when a mom's angry, yeah, like,
Yeah.
was she like sitting down waiting for you, or like was she just like going about her normal business, and you're just
She
like,
was waiting for me. She was waiting for me because I came back home late, like 10 p.m. at night. 10 p.m. is the longest time you can stay in PC방 unless you're older than 18. So I always was there until 10.
wow. So yeah, closing time, literally.
Yeah.
So she's waiting for you, and like, what does she say to you?
They say like, where did you go? I was like, I went to the academy. It was like, are you sure? Yeah, I thought I continue on lying, and I realized that she already figured out that I've never went there. I don't really remember much about it, but I got spanked. That's what I still remember. I actually had to go back to the academy thing. You know, I think she was like, "I'll kick you out if kick." She was gonna kick me out of the house if I don't go there anymore, and she would cut my what is it? The money the parents give to their kids. What is it called? There was a word for that.
Allowance?
Yeah, she would cut that stuff if I don't go there anymore. So I was forced to go there and study, you know. Obviously, most of the time I wasn't paying attention, so it didn't mean much, but I still had to physically be there instead of being PC방.
Gotcha. So while you were at school, your mind was on the PC bong?
Yeah. I actually, when I was in school, even when I was school, I put two pieces of paper on desk and I draw keyboard on a paper and on other paper I draw a mouse. And I was playing StarCraft in my head, you know? Yeah, I was image training, right?
Yeah. That's awesome. That's like, you should have been doing that in the military, man. Like just image training something else to keep you entertained. Oh, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
If I do that right now, they'll probably think I'm insane.
Yeah, they'll be like, this guy's going crazy. We got to let him out. He's playing imaginary games with a piece of paper. Wow. Just imagine seeing this young kid taking the time to create an imaginary keyboard and mouse made from pieces of paper and pretending to play StarCraft. That to me is the equivalent of seeing kids that I grew up with pretending to dribble and make that three-pointer, or practice their swings for baseball with no bat in their hand and hitting it out of the park. Lots of love for this game. After the break, Rain drops out of high school and joins the team house. But things don't go according to plan. Hi everyone. If you're enjoying the podcast so far and would like to keep up with the StarCraft Observer, follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, where not only will you get updates about the latest episodes, but some original content when it comes to the podcast and StarCraft-related gripes. Once again, follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. Welcome back. Up until this point, we covered Rain's life as a kid, moving to New Zealand and coming back to South Korea, and sneaking off to PC bongs to play StarCraft, only to later be in deep trouble by his mom. Prior to this interview, I dove deep into Rain's background, which, to be honest, makes interviewing a whole lot easier when there's a wealth of information on a particular person. And knowing that Rain was on the verge to become pro soon, the whole time during my research and studying who Rain was, I couldn't help but have this nagging question in the back of my mind. When was it that Rain knew he was very good at this game? Like when did you know you were really good? Like when?
When I was in middle school,
Mm.
I was competing with other kids from different schools, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I went up to the high school, I was competing with even more guys from more schools, right? And I was pretty good among them. I was one of the best players in my neighborhood or my town. So I thought I was really good at this, and I thought I was very talented in StarCraft. But it turned out I wasn't very talented. But at the time, I thought I was very good at it. Yeah. StarCraft 1, though, I agree that I do possess some talent in StarCraft 2, but I didn't do as good back in StarCraft 1.
Like when you got into StarCraft, was there a specific pro player that you looked up to?
Oh, Boxer. Yeah, like everyone else.
What was it, and what was it about Boxer that was just like, wow?
I remember I was about to go to the academy, and I turned on the TV, and I randomly saw him playing on the finals. I knew who Boxer was before. I wasn't really a fan of him, and I saw him playing on the finals, best of five, and the score was 2-2. So I couldn't like leave, I had to watch the game. And was the last game, so I had to watch that. But well, I was forced to leave. My mom was there, so she was like, "Hey, you have to go. You have to go."
And do you remember who he was playing against?
Anytime. It's a Protoss player, Boxer versus Anytime. Yeah, I really wanted to watch that stuff, but I had to leave. And after I came back, I actually saw the whole series, the replay of the whole series. I think that's the moment when I became huge fan of Boxer.
Did he win
Yeah.
the series?
No, he didn't.
Uh, but you still
Yeah.
became a fan of him. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really amazing. And what is it about Boxer that you looked up to?
His creativeness, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't really good at macro, right? But he always overcame his weaknesses with insane strategies he make. I think that's why I think that's why everyone loved him so much. He always come up with like new strategies and with the brilliant like ideas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. I know I'm skipping ahead a little bit in time, but yeah, I didn't get to experience Boxer during the StarCraft days. It was during StarCraft 2 and GSL Season 2 and so forth, and Season 3 and whatnot.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And when GOM TV did the whole like Boxer versus Yellow, and they're like capitalizing on the
Mhm.
rivalry, and they're making this whole like teaser series where Yellow's training for StarCraft 2 to play against Boxer again. And I mean, it was such an unfair advantage, but it was very fun to watch because you got to see Boxer's creativity when he did the was it when he lined up the bunkers across the map,
Oh yeah.
and he had the Marines go into the bunker and jump from each bunker to
Oh
bunker.
yeah, yeah. I remember that. I remember
They'd move so fast across the map when you did that, but that was incredible to see. We're just like, whoa, we didn't know you can do that.
that.
So yeah, like you're definitely right in the creativity. He was just so good, and that's what I loved about him too. He always like thought outside of the box. Like he always came up with something unique and insane that like he would capitalize on, a flaw within the game. I can only imagine what Rain was feeling like as he finished watching that game between Boxer and Anytime. Just watching the video for it gets me really hyped because the stadium's so massive. There's a huge stage where both players are standing across from each other in their soundproof booths. Flames and smoke coming out from the stage. Thousands upon thousands of people. I mean, the whole thing feels like an absolute spectacle. So it's no surprise that after this moment, this key moment, Rain is fully inspired to pursue pro gaming. After that moment, did you tell your mom that?
Yeah, I did. I did. Obviously she didn't like it, right? Because I actually told my mom that I want, well, I think it was when I was 15. Like I graduated from I don't know the school system in US exactly, but I graduated from middle school and I went to a new high school. After a few weeks, I actually told my mom, I want to drop out of school, so I can focus on practicing video games, StarCraft. And she was like, "Fuck no," cause like as I mentioned earlier, Korea is all about education, and if you drop out of school and if you can be successful as a StarCraft player, your life is fucked, basically, right? Like I'm taking a huge risk, so my parents didn't want me to do that. It was difficult to convince them.
And how did you convince her?
Well, obviously at first, uh, she said no, right? My dad didn't even want me to do that either. So I actually I made a promise that if I don't become pro in a year, I told them I would go back to school and I would never say anything about gaming again.
So, yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm just finding it so impossible to believe because you have these strict parents that want you to pursue your education. They don't want you to go pro gaming, but you convince them. Like, did you show them anything? Like, did you show them?
I actually wrote a letter, probably like 5 pages, but I tried to convince them I'm very serious about this and it's something that I really wanted to do. I didn't email my dad. I actually just gave it to my mom, because my dad isn't as strict as her. So the first thing I had to do was convincing my mom.
What were you feeling moments before you were about to give her that letter?
Well, like my mom and I had like the same argument over and over about me trying to become a pro gamer. And we didn't talk for like a month. We didn't speak a word to each other. I was basically ignoring her, I didn't want to talk to her, like, because she wasn't supporting me. And I finally felt like, you know, I had to talk to my mom. So that's why I decided to write a letter. She actually thought I was very serious about gaming. I wasn't just messing around with that. I think she felt it. That's why she let me pursue my career. And we went back to school together and we signed the paper like to withdrawal paper or something. Yeah, and I dropped out of school.
Man, yeah, sorry. I'm just like, I'm shook a little. Like, it's, I'm a dad. So if I were to do that with my daughter and like if she wanted to pursue pro gaming, I want them to be happy and I want them to experience this thing. But at the same time, I don't because I want you to be safe. It's just, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Imagine your kid grow up and they were in high school and telling you that they want to drop out of school because they want to be a YouTuber. Would you let them do it?
Fuck, dude. Why are you doing this to me? No, I totally understand. Yeah, that's the equivalent to pro gaming back then, if you think about it.
Yeah.
And that last question he asked, if your daughter wanted to be a YouTuber, would you let them do it? I never answered that question during the interview, but if my daughter wrote me a 5-page letter outlining their passion for being a YouTuber or a content creator, or just talking to me about how passionate they were about content creation, you bet that I would do my best to support them in any which way I can. I'm still in shock when I listen back to all that, because I can't believe his own words, all written down in a 5-page letter, was all it took to have Rain's mother approve of him to pursue pro gaming full time. He doesn't really remember what he wrote in that letter exactly, other than, if you're good at StarCraft, you can make a lot of money, along with all the positives a teenage kid would write about pro gaming. So, with that approval, that also meant allowing Rain to drop out of high school to pursue his dream, in which his mom also supported. Not an easy decision for anyone, especially in South Korea where an individual's education is highly recognized. But she was able to see just how much this dream meant to her son, and eventually signed those papers, which allowed him to drop out. Rain mentions that moments after signing the so-called dropout papers that she showed signs of worriedness, but Rain wasn't able to recognize the enormous event that had just occurred because he was too young. He only cared about himself and too blinded by the fact that he was just so happy not only to just be out of school, but to be able to finally pursue his dream. So, what exactly comes next after dropping out of high school and pursuing the dream of pro gaming? What's life like after dropping out of high school? Do you just, that's it? Like, you just stop going to school? Like, you just wake up the next day and you just start playing StarCraft all day?
Yeah, yeah. And after I only stayed for like a week at home after I dropped out. I went to the practice house.
And how did you hear about the practice house?
Like back in StarCraft 1, like the clan thing was a huge thing, like Shield clan, Buy clan. Those clan stuff. They were basically advertising their practice house. I know it sounds weird, but
No, that was the thing. That's a thing in Korea back then. Like, you had all these clans advertising their practice house.
yeah.
And had you see the advertisement? Did you just get like a random message on BattleNet?
You know, I you know, I wanted to be a member of Shield clan, you know. So I was just hanging around on their channel, and I found out that they were running a team house. So I was thinking if I become a member of team house, they would probably accept me as a member, and I can also have good practice partners and things like that. You have to pay like $400 for a month to be there. It's like a practicing house. Yeah, I asked my parents to sign me up there and support me for a year.
Hmm. And they were okay with that?
Surprisingly, yes. I was very surprised.
When you see the price associated with being a part of it, like, are you shocked or are you excited?
Yeah, I was excited. It was like $400 per month. I could sleep there. They were feeding me too. The meals were included. $400 is like affordable, right? My parents paid for that fee.
Well, like, how do they react when you tell them like, oh, hey, like, I can live in this team house for $400 a month and I can get better? Like, what was their reaction?
Well, they didn't know basically anything about gaming, so they basically trusted everything I said. And I think I told them like, oh, this team house has like this guy, and this guy, and they're like very successful in the esports. And if I can practice in in their team house, oh, I can be like them too. I'm gonna have like good practice partners, and like I'm gonna be living there. The meals are included. So if you guys can pay that stuff for 1 year, I can be pro.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's what I told him, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you finally sign up, and how's the whole process? You just had to pack up your stuff and you start living there, or like what happens?
Yeah, I just pack up all my thing. I moved in,
Hmm.
and
And was it like anybody can join, or was it only like you had to like, I guess,
anybody,
was there
basically anybody.
really?
Yeah, as long as you pay and you don't go to school. Oh, you know who Alive is?
Yeah.
The Terran player?
Mm-hmm.
I actually met him there in that same team house.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow, dude.
And yeah.
So wait, you're telling me that like if I wanted to train with Flash, I could pay $400 a month to live in the same apartment as him with all these other players and get good at
No,
StarCraft.
they don't have pro players there.
Oh.
They only have amateur players and few semi pros as a coach, as coaches. But I never had a chance to see Bisu or even play with him.
Gotcha. And yeah, what was it like living there?
It was actually pretty bad. I didn't do shit. Only like 20% of people there were actually working hard, and rest of them were just fucking around. I was the one of the people in that 80% category. I didn't practice at all. After I went there, I was just so happy that I didn't have to go to school. And I played like few games a day and I just didn't do shit, you know. That's why I failed. I actually failed for my first year. I didn't do shit. So I told you that I promised my mom to allow me a year in StarCraft, you know. I told them I would go back to school if I don't make it. I felt so bad about because I didn't even try, you know. Yeah, that's why I came back. Actually, I came back home. I couldn't go back to school because, you know, all my friends would think that I'm a loser, right? So I didn't want to go back to school. I decided to study the GED test. I studied for like probably like 2 months or something. And I told my mom again, like, Mom, you know I fucked it up, but if you give me like another year, I think I could make it, you know? And obviously I thought she would say no because I already failed once, right? But surprisingly, well, she said, okay, try it for another year.
Wow, man, that's incredible. Your mom gives you another year.
Yeah,
So then what comes after?
I was very serious about it.
So just to do a quick recap. In Rain's first year, the year he didn't make the cut in becoming a pro gamer, he went to the Shield team house. Then the Join team house. And after that, back to the Shield team house, which they later changed their name to By, spelled B-Y. Upon his second year, in which he started taking things more seriously, and as luck happens to have it, he joins FOU, spelled F-O-U, because he became good friends with Alive during his time at Shield. Sure, joining FOU sounds amazing, but it was not the pro house. A lot of the pro teams would have amateur houses in which almost anyone is able to join as long as they pay their fees. These specific amateur houses allowed people to be surrounded by like-minded StarCraft players to help one another improve and to become the best at the game. These houses also allowed team owners to scout local talent and determine if someone is of the pro level and able to move into the pro house. Even if you didn't make it as a pro, you would still have the chance to learn from other StarCraft players. And from what he told me, his training schedule went a bit like this. Wake up at 10 a.m., practice, lunch at 1 p.m., practice, dinner at 7 p.m., and practice again until 12 a.m. Then some free time. A simple routine, sure, but it was just enough for Rain to stay on track. As wonderful as all that might sound, Rain would run into another problem that would not only affect him, but thousands of other players playing StarCraft Brood War.
The problem was the match fixing scandal happened around that time. You remember that? It was like 2009 or something. So the courage match I told you about earlier, like the only way to become pro, they didn't hold that tournament for a year because StarCraft was like fucked up, because of the match fixing. So if there's no tournament, like no matter how much I practice, I can never be pro because like all the kids there, they were just practicing hard, but they never had a chance to, give it a shot because there was no tournament. Like, how can you become pro then if there's no tournament?
During that time, what are you doing? Just training or?
Training over and over. I was very frustrated and yeah, just training.
Once the Courage tournament comes back, what was that like?
Well, it never came back. StarCraft 2 was released. That's why I decided to switch to StarCraft 2.
Oh my gosh. Wow, I didn't realize. Oh, wow. Sorry, I'm like in shock. So you had all these people wanting to become a pro, but they couldn't because of this one fucking tournament.
hmm
That is bonkers. Like that's ridiculous.
hmm
But I always
hmm
thought being in the US, you became a pro when you started winning like major tournaments like MLG or NASL. If you won one of those, you were considered a pro. That's what I thought.
Right now, like right now, I think there's like no such thing as pro. If you make money with gaming, you're pro basically. But
Mm,
but back then they had license, the pro license. If you In order to play on those tournaments, you had to have that license.
mm.
So
Right. So if I wanted to play in a pro tournament, I needed a license to play in that pro tournament?
Yeah, back in StarCraft 1 days,
Right.
yes.
So 2009. Okay, so I'm getting the story straight. So 2009, you're at the Foyu house, right?
Mhm.
For 6 months, no courage tournament. And then, because StarCraft 2 is announced in 2010, so for the remaining 6 months, you're just training. That's it.
Yeah, I trained StarCraft 1. I don't remember when StarCraft 2 first came out. I played the open beta. Open beta was open for everyone, right? And and when I was at the For You house, Choya, you know who Choya is? He was the owner of the For You house, and he convinced like everyone to switch to StarCraft 2. He was like, "You guys will probably not make it if you still play StarCraft 1 because we're still amateurs, we're still at the bottom of the competition." So he was like, "Yeah, you guys should play StarCraft 2." And he said he was gonna like make a team or something. He actually did. He actually did, but that's and yeah, that's why we start playing StarCraft 2.
Were you hesitant about switching from StarCraft 1 to StarCraft 2?
Not at all. Not at all.
Hmm.
I felt that this is the only chance for me.
With StarCraft 2 finally releasing, making the switch was a no-brainer, and soon Rain realizes that he's good. Very good, actually, because he was top 10 on the Korean ladder, which, as we all know, the Korean ladder of StarCraft is the hardest of any region in the world, so you can imagine what being top 10 meant. He also managed to qualify for the second GSL, which put him on the map, and because of this, he caught some attention. So much so that the first GSL champ contacted him.
Um, like I said, I was always in like top 10, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one day I got a message from TSL fruit dealer. He was the first winner of the GSL. He messaged me.
What does he say?
He said, "Do you want to join our team?" I was like, What the fuck? Like, is this really happening to me?" Like, he actually messaged me to join the team.
Oh, wow. And where were you when you got this message?
I was at home. I was taking a nap and I woke up and found out there were some bunch of messages left. And I found out I was very shocked.
So what's going through your mind when you're getting this message? Like what's happening?
The TSL back then was the biggest team in Korea. So I was like, oh, finally, shit. I worked hard for this and now finally getting paid back for my effort. Like I couldn't even imagine myself playing and living in the same team house with the fruit dealer or like other good players they had.
And then so do you immediately pack your bags and like go?
Yeah, I did. I did. Basically did.
It's kind of crazy for someone who just recently won the GSL at this time to just reach out to you and be like, "Hey, want to join our team?" Which to all of us at the time is like a professional NBA star asking to join the team or Captain America inviting you to become an Avenger. It's a dream come true for Rain. His hard work and his determination was finally paying off. Naturally, Rain accepts and packs his bags to head on over to the TSL house. But he would once again run into some trouble and would have an even more turbulent time that would have him questioning his team choice, which leads to some GSL finals drama, so much so that he would feel forced to issue out an apology to the public, and after all of that, Rain would once again find himself back at square one, and on his own, teamless. More of that in the next episode, coming to you next week. Editing, music, and production was done by your host, Christopher Lopez. Until next time, friends, thank you very much.